Live from Keene, New Hampshire, the most watched TV news show in Keene, the Keene Weekly News with Mark Edgington. Coverage of local and national events starts now.
Good evening. My name's Mark Edgington. This is the Keene Weekly News. Thanks for watching. Today is December the 21st, 2007. Got lots of things to talk about this evening. Three big stories. It's snowing. Lots of snow everywhere. Snow piled up on the sides of the road. I could barely walk through my backyard. The snow's piled up this deep. I just moved here from Florida about 18, 19, 20 months ago, something like that. Labor Day, 2006. So I want to thank God for the small amount of snow we got last year compared to this, because I had no idea it could be like this. But that never ceases to amuse the people who are from New Hampshire, all my stories of surprise at all the weather here in the live free or die state. But that's why I moved here. Live free or die and all. Okay, also, Cheshire TV is going to stay on the air. That's awesome news. Apparently, not only did the City Council approve the new funding measure with Time Warner that the city manager, Mr. Keene, worked out, but also gave a loan of $16,000 to sort of float Cheshire TV through the hard times until everything kicks in. So apparently they'll be getting $5,500 a month, which can't be very much to run a TV station on. I don't know everything that goes on here. I just pop in for an hour on Fridays. It's not like I'm running the show or anything, but $5,500 doesn't seem like much to run a TV station on. I can barely run a house on that. Speaking of the house, those of you who are interested, people are asking me all the time. Little Jackson Stewart Edgington's coming along fine. My wife is 7 months pregnant, and he'll be making his debut in March. And, oh yeah, of course, I'll bring him on at some point so everybody can see. Everybody likes a baby, right? Mine's going to be a very attractive baby, as you can see. Other big news. Ron Paul raised over $6 million last week. $6 million in one day. That makes him the highest fundraising ever online in one day, and the highest fundraising ever in one day for a campaign. More than any of the Democrats, more than any of the Republicans. Ron Paul has as much money, if not more, on hand than all the front-runners in the Republican primaries. So for those of you who have said that Ron Paul just can't make it, so I'm not going to look at him, take another look, because Ron Paul has all the money he needs. His commercials are running, and people are hearing the message. He got a nice front page on Keene Sentinel, so let me read this to you. Ron Paul says, "We're all libertarians at heart." On the campaign trail, he's up for another struggle. Polls have the Texas Republican as a long shot in the upcoming presidential primary. I'd like to talk about those polls briefly if I could. Now, I get the poll calls. I have a home phone, and they call me and ask me questions. I've got some of the push polls, too. I love those. Please try to tell me who to vote for. I love that crap. But a lot of people that are voting age simply don't have home phones. They aren't registered Republicans or Democrats. They didn't vote Republican or Democrat in the last presidential election. So the pollsters don't care to talk to those people. They don't include them in their numbers. Well, Ron Paul's going to bring out a lot of people that may have never voted before, may have never voted Republican before, may not have a home phone. I mean, many people, I operated for a very long time without a home phone. It's not that, you just don't need it that much anymore. I currently work from home, so I make outgoing telephone calls a great deal, and I don't want that kind of funny cell phone sound when I'm talking to prospective clients. So I have to have one, but I wouldn't have one otherwise. My wife has a cell phone. I have a cell phone. Carry it around with me all the time. It's right here in my pocket. What's the big deal? You don't need a home phone. So the pollsters don't get to talk to those people. And I have a feeling they're going to be very, very surprised. If Ron Paul doesn't take New Hampshire, he's going to show up at 20%. That's just a prediction. I may not be Rush Limbaugh. I may not be right 99.44% of the time. I don't know. But it's just a prediction. With an impressive groundswell of grassroots support and the internet fundraising assisting him now, he's encouraged by what he sees ahead. Something's going on, Paul said in a recent interview with the Sentinel. Here he is, a little picture of him at Lindy's Diner. He's now been to Lindy's Diner. He has to win, right? That's the good luck charm. You go to Lindy's Diner, and as a presidential candidate, and how many presidents have been to Lindy's? That's what it takes. Much of Paul's message revolves around fiscal responsibility. Now, I'm going to be voting, obviously, Republican in this particular primary. I don't really consider myself a Republican. I suppose I'm more of a Republican than a Democrat. I don't know. But I'm undeclared, and I would consider myself fiscally conservative, but socially liberal. I think that the government should stay out of my life and should tax me as little as possible because every bit of my money that they take, they waste on a bunch of crap, including this war over in Iraq and all the little social programs that they're intending to solve problems with. But whereas I don't think the government should tell you who you can marry, what you do in your spare time, what goes on in your bedroom, anything like that. I just don't think that the government should be involved in that crap. Let me tell you a little bit about the profile they gave here, the Keene Sentinel. Ronald E. Paul, I'm not sure what the E stands for, age 72, political affiliation, Republican, but he did run in 1988 as the Libertarian presidential candidate, so he's a Libertarian. But there's a Libertarian wing of the Republican Party. I'm a dues-paid member of the Republican Liberty Caucus. I know for sure that there is. I'm also a member of the Democratic Freedom Caucus, just in case you wondered. His current residence is Lake Jackson, Texas, which is apparently his area is Clute, Texas. Never been to Clute? Don't know anything about Clute. He's got his MD at Duke. His wife, Carol, of like close to 50 years, and 5 children. Just like Mitt Romney. Now, Mitt Romney parades his children around so that you'll say, oh, he's got 5 children. Isn't that wonderful? Ron Paul, you don't see him parading his children around, getting them involved in his campaign. Why? Because his campaign's about substance. Because if you look at the facts on Mitt Romney, you'll be a little disappointed. You know, he says he's a fiscal conservative, but he did raise taxes in Massachusetts. I know. He'll say he lowered taxes. But, of course, he raised mandatory fees. And he raised taxes on corporations, corporate taxes. Now, I know you say, well, what's that? Those evil corporations? Well, those evil corporations employ people. And those evil corporations sell things to people. The people that buy those things from those corporations, they have to pay those taxes because, well, if you don't make a profit, you're not in business for very long. So, whenever taxes are raised on businesses, we all pay. He's been a member of the House of Representatives 3 different times, from 76 to 77, 79 to 85, and 1997 to present. He's an obstetrician, gynecologist, still licensed in Texas, so he can practice there, give birth to your baby. He was a flight surgeon in the United States Air Force. I know that some presidential candidates will tout their military service. Well, there's only a couple out there right now. McCain, he was a POW. Sure can't top POW, right? But you can't say that McCain's the only one with military service. I've heard people say that. Not so Ron Paul, United States Air Force. And we all know that the Air Force only takes the very, very best. A little question of him. What past presidents or politicians, the types of leaders you want to model yourself after? Well, probably not in every single way, but I only have one picture of anyone involved in politics in my office, and that's Grover Cleveland. He was part of a breed of Democrats, this is a Republican member, part of a breed of Democrats that believed in just about everything I say. limited government, sound money, none of this foreign intervention, and he was willing to veto a lot of bills. That's a Democrat he's talking about. Ah, how far we've come. You see, even when the Democrats are talking now, the candidates, I mean, are talking about no foreign intervention, they give lip service to getting us out of Iraq. But even Hillary Clinton has said that she would continue a force in Iraq to secure the embassy and train the Iraqis in, whatever it is they're training them for. I don't know about you, but I remember Vietnam, and those were the criteria for that war. I don't want another Vietnam. I want somebody who's going to get us out of that war. I want those guys put on the first thing smoking out of Iraq. Then we can issue an apology for getting involved in their business in the first place. The quote under his picture is this. I guess this is Grover Cleveland continuing here. What is it worth if you get elected and reelected and don't stand for something? And that's the way I feel. What's it worth to me? It's worth nothing. Apparently he's a big bicycle rider. There's a great deal of this article about bicycle riding. The only part I found interesting about that was he rides his bike outdoors in Washington, D.C. He doesn't have Secret Service agents following him around. This is a man of the people. He's not worried about it. 72 years old, out riding his bicycle, Washington, D.C. There's another candidate in the campaign that you could vote for, aside from yourself. Who would it be? They always ask this question. It's like an endorsement or something. I don't have one. I would answer the same thing. I don't have one. Unless he changes his tune, changes his views, I can't support somebody who would disagree with what I'm talking about. I've believed in this for 30 years, and it won't make any sense for me or my supporters. They'd say, I've lost my mind. And I have to say, if Ron Paul doesn't win the Republican nomination this year, or next year, I guess we're at the end of 2007, right? I'm not going to vote for another Republican. I won't be responsible for that. I'm not going to vote for a lesser of two evils. Now, I'll vote for somebody I don't completely agree with. I don't completely agree with Ron Paul. There's some of his issues that I don't agree with. But, most people don't agree with me on them. For one, immigration. Ron Paul wants to control illegal immigration into the country, fix our immigration system, fix our welfare system, fix our public schools system so that people aren't coming over here and deadbeats who want to milk our system for all it's worth. And then he'll set up a immigration system where people can come in. Now I say we don't have an immigration problem. We have a public school and welfare problem. Look, if somebody gets hurt and they go to a hospital and they don't have any money to pay, but the hospital's responsible for treating them, what kind of sense does that make? Hospitals are in business to make money. Now, most hospitals have charity wings and they'll take care of somebody who's injured or whatever. But I don't think there should be a law requiring it. I don't think you and I should be legally responsible for supporting somebody from another country's kids going to school. As a matter of fact, I don't think you and I should be responsible for supporting somebody else's kids in this country for going to school. What kind of sense does that make? You had the kid. Why should I pay for it? Now, those of you who have been listening realize I have a child on the way. This is coming from somebody who's going to have a kid who's going to be of school age at some point. I do not want you to have to pay to send my child to school. What about the poor people? They'll never get their kids educated. Well, now we're talking about something different. That's welfare. That's not education. Those are people that can't afford it. Mostly, the kids that we're sending to school, I see them getting into shiny new cars and stuff like that. We've got welfare for middle-class people. There's no reason in the world why you and I should have to be paying to send some middle-class person's kid to school. They can afford to send their kid to school, especially if they didn't have to pay all those property taxes. 60% of our property taxes go to school. Think about it. Do we have to send them to college? Do we have to send them to doctorate school? I mean, what about feeding them? Shouldn't we have to feed them too? I mean, why should they work? Shouldn't we have to just support them from cradle to grave? The other thing I disagree with on Ron Paul is his abortion stance. Now, I have an odd position on abortion, so hear me out. I believe that a human fetus is a human life. What else could it be, right? It's human life. There's a story in this week's news about a kid and a 15-year-old child who maliciously threw a football at a girl and hit her in the stomach, and she spontaneously aborted the child. He's going to be charged with that. I believe that was Fort Lauderdale, Fort Myers, Florida. He's going to be charged in the death of that fetus. Why? Is it a life? What kind of sense does that make? She can choose to kill the child, but he can't. Strange. So I believe that it's a human life. Now, I told you to hear me out. I also believe that we've had abortion outlawed in this country. It's been illegal before. We were locking up young women and doctors, educated men who wanted to help people, women who were in straits situations that they just couldn't handle. We've locked those people up, and I don't believe they're criminals. I don't see any reason that you and I should pay to lock those people up. So, I'm in a bit of a quandary. I think that I think that a woman has a right to choose what's going on with her body and have an operation on her body if she so chooses. If there happens to be another living human being living in her body, well, that person has to get out. If that person dies in the process, well, that's her decision, I guess. Like I said, it's not an easy issue. Dr. Paul, however, on the other hand, believes that if abortion is the ending of a life, it should be handled by states. This does make some sense. States decide murder cases. If I murder somebody tomorrow, I'm not going to go to a federal prison. I'm going to go to a state prison. I'm not going to be tried in a federal court. I'm going to be tried in a state court. So under his system, likely some states would outlaw abortion, some wouldn't. Some would have there would be varying degrees in between. Maybe Utah, for instance, or Iowa would say no abortion under any circumstance whatever. And then maybe a more liberal place like, say, Massachusetts would say, well, all the way up to the before the baby comes out, you can abort. Currently in the United States, I think it's to the middle of the second trimester you can do it. So my wife's past that point, but either way, it's not an easy issue, that's for sure. And also about the Republican candidates, Tom Tancredo has dropped out. So those of you who are supporting Mr. Tancredo, I would encourage you to look at Dr. Paul. He has many of the same positions. Tancredo was big on immigration. Dr. Paul has a similar stance. Now, Tancredo endorsed Romney. I think Romney's a big competitor in this particular election. I don't think he's going to be a good choice. I also don't think that he has a chance to win. Dr. Paul's from Texas, one of the big states, pulling a lot of electoral votes. Massachusetts, it's not a small state by any stretch of the imagination. Boston's a big town, but it's not one of the top 5. And it's not going to make that big of a difference. Plus, you got to think about a lot of those Southern Republicans out there. Are they going to vote for a Mormon? Now, I personally don't have anything against Mormons. Whatever little story about the Bible you believe, it's fine with me. However, there are many people that take their religion very seriously, and they consider Mormons to be a cult. I think that's going to cost them. I mean, obviously Republicans want to put up somebody who's going to win against the Democrats, right? You can't win if you can't motivate your base. You can't motivate your base if you're putting a cultist out in front of them. It's just my thoughts. Could be wrong. All right, on to different stuff. Done my little presidential stuff for the day. For 120 workers, it's no holiday. It's sad. Apparently a Claremont company, Customized Structures Incorporated, they build modular homes, as this housing crunch has hit them on the chin, and there were no orders for January, and they're closing. Well, Governor Lynch says it's unconscionable that apparently they're not giving enough severance pay to these people. Now, it's sad. It's sad that people are losing their jobs. It's sad that this company is going out of business. I'm sure that these people that own this company are losing a great deal of money. It's not like they're, making a lot. They're not going out of business because they're making money. Does that make any sense to you? Governor Lynch, however, wants to take as much money out of their pocket as possible and put it in their workers' pocket. And that sounds nice on the front. Maybe these people made more money. Who knows? Who knows what the circumstance is? But who made money off of this company every single month it was open? The state did. Now, why doesn't the state write them a check. The Governor Lynch says it's unconscionable, right? No. The state wants to make sure that you pay and pay and pay. This is what they think about your business. And your business isn't separated from your personal life. A man's got to work to eat, right? Some of them are going to start businesses. If they didn't start businesses, other people wouldn't have jobs. The state's got to be more business friendly. It's crazy. Here's one just to make a point that I wanted to get out. This is from Central Islip, New York. So it's not a local story, but apparently jurors in a slavery case, you don't hear this too often, said that a Long Island couple had enslaved a couple of their workers. Apparently showed grisly pictures of wounds inflicted by on one of the Indonesian women. Apparently the woman's name was Samara. Another woman, Inung, also testified in the bizarre abuse inflicted upon them. Well, it said that apparently the government is going to, that they must forfeit their house to the government. Now, I just want to make a point here. These people did something horrible, right? They enslaved some people and they treated them badly. And those people that got treated badly, what's going to happen to them? The government's going to get a house out of the deal. What happened to the government? Nothing. The government's fine. Nobody in the government got enslaved or beat or whipped or treated poorly. It's these women that got treated poorly. But the government gets a house. What do the women get? Crap. This happens all the time. The government will fine somebody for doing something wrong and the victim gets crap. Nothing. Does this make any sense? The people should be responsible for making their victims whole again, not for paying the government some money. These politicians, they just want to steal money every place they can. Democrats and Republicans. Free parking this week in Keene. You know, Christmas shopping and all that. I want to make it so downtown merchants don't have to compete with the big boys. But they do have to compete because a lot of people don't even know. As a matter of fact, yesterday I went to get the mail and I slipped a nickel into the parking meter. 6 minutes. I don't need long to get the mail, right? And I didn't have to, because it was free. But in my mind, I have to pay for parking. A lot of people don't think about it being free this week. A lot of people don't read the paper. I know that I've gone to Timoleon's to have breakfast and realized I didn't have any change and got back in my car and drove to Friendly's because the parking's free there. That metered parking on Main Street, it's not good for the businesses. Now, what's the solution? I mean, obviously, if we just had free parking on Main Street all the time, then, you know, people that rent some of the rooms upstairs, some of the apartments upstairs from these businesses, they'd be parking there and taking up the parking that customers would be using. Parking's a real issue in Keene. So how do we solve it? I don't know. Here's an idea, right? Just an idea. What if we gave the parking spaces out in front of a business to the business? Actually, let's give them to the people that own the building. In some cases, businesses rent. So let's give them to the parking spaces to the people that own them. They'll be responsible for maintenance and upkeep. They'll be responsible for who parks there. They'll have to worry about it. That way we don't have to employ, 5 meter maids that scour the city giving out tickets, basically to pay their own salaries. I mean, do we really want to disincentivize people from shopping downtown? I know the downtown businesses don't want to. It's just an idea. Another thing about transportation in Keene. This is just a letter out of the Keene Sentinel, the opinion section. I usually don't pull them out, but this one I thought was kind of interesting. It's from Tony Edgington in San Francisco. What's he writing for Keene for? Well, you'll hear why. He's a big proponent of rail. Now, maybe he's come here, I don't know. I mean, he could very well. Keene scored first for a North American city of its size, assessing all its core signalized intersections for roundabout conversion. But Keene also stands among a very few in its size without rail services for businesses and passengers. In an energy-starved, conserving world, the superior energy-efficient rail, freight, and passenger movement has become a necessity for economic health in any urban community. It's true. Trains use less power than cars do. Unfortunately, it's because of government intervention that we don't use rail service now. because the government got involved in so heavily in rail service back in the first half of the 1900s that, well, they regulated them out of existence. That's the only passenger rail service out there on a national scale is Amtrak, and it's as nationalized as the post office is. I'm fine with rail service in Keene. What I'm not fine with is the city of Keene having anything to do with it, or the county of Cheshire County having anything to do with it, or the state of New Hampshire having anything to do with it. If somebody sees an economic opportunity to start rail service in Keene, let them. That'd be great. I know people think that this is crazy, but we've got buses now in Keene that ride around empty most of the time. People don't use them. I mean, a few people do, but not enough, because it's not a service that people want. In New York City, they have services called gypsy cabs, people that operate without medallions. Why? Because people need that many more cabs in New York City. The demand's there. People want those gypsy cabs. They're operating illegally because the government hasn't given them a medallion, but people need their services. If we need the service of somebody doing this kind of mass transportation, then we'll pay for it and somebody will supply it. But we should shut down our bus system. We should get rid of it. And if somebody wants to supply a bus system in Keene, how difficult would that be? You buy a bus, you drive it around, you pick people up, you drop them off. I mean, we certainly have this private bus system that goes from here to the airports, Logan and Manchester. Why wouldn't a local bus system make sense? Somebody could operate that at a profit. That'd be a good thing, because we're sure operating it at a loss now. Bus system in Keene, bus systems everywhere, all across the country. They're just pork pies for politicians to play with. Well, let's see. Apparently, New Hampshire, the young people aren't moving out of New Hampshire like they thought. They thought there was a brain drain going on. The best and brightest of New Hampshire was leaving. Apparently, it's not true. It's a birth dearth. Fewer, white people are just having fewer kids these days. They want to live a better lifestyle, and they know that children cost lots and lots of money. We don't live in an agrarian society where children are an asset any longer. I mean, it used to be you had kids, you put them to work at like 5 or 6 out in the fields. Now, well, you got to pay for them until they're 25. They cost a lot of money. Every child, $250,000. Every kid you see walking around, you might as well replace them with a fine Italian sports car, because that's what they cost. They're a lot of money. So apparently New Hampshire is drawing a lot of young people here, including myself. I wonder why young people are moving to New Hampshire. Is it to enjoy the freedom that we experience here? The smaller government that we have in other states than other states? The lower taxes? It's one of the lowest tax burdens in the United States. We should keep it low. Not just keep it low, but lower it, so that we can continue to get more and more people here, so that they'll want to come here and enjoy the life that New Hampshire has to offer. These are my ideas. You got anything to share, give me an email. My name is Mark Edgington. This is the Keene Weekly News. Thanks for watching.